You know, a lot of grown-ups in the church remember these miracle stories fondly from our childhood when we learned them in Sunday school, and they were fun, and we drew pictures of them, and we remembered them, and then we sort of put them behind us as we grew up and we learned about science and everything. But I have to tell you, as a person that's about as grown up as I'm ever going to be, that I love these Jesus miracle stories for a number of reasons. And the first one is because for the very reason that they do push the envelope of believability. In fact, they're outside of our envelope of believability. Most of us think it didn't really happen like that. It has to be metaphorical. And we think that because maybe we've never seen 5,000 people be fed on 5 loaves, and 2 fish. We have this experience where we think the people in the story didn't really experience anything like that. So someone must have made it up for some sort of metaphorical reason. To which I say, why would anyone make a story like this up? And I like that these stories are outside our envelope of believability, because when you think about God and you, God and me, God and us, they sort of have to be. That's right, they have to be outside of our envelope of believability. Because by definition, I think, if the stories are somehow conveying something about God, and they already fit inside a neat little envelope of my life experience, of what I'm able to imagine, of what I have heard from others, of what I have seen with my own eyes, well, that wouldn't be much of a God now, would it? That'd be like my Uncle Ralph. Hardly the creator, sustainer, and redeemer of the entire universe. That's more like a little God that you can fold up and put in your pocket and pull out when you're looking for where you're supposed to go or how to turn the lights on. Which leads me to the second reason why I love that these stories are outside of my envelope. By being out there, they challenge my faith experience. Let's be honest. Most of us who've grown up in the church like to get pretty comfortable in our faith. We like to practice the way we like to practice. We like to sing the way we like to sing. We like communion the way we like communion. We like Christmas the way Christmas always is, and the Easter the way Easter always is. And we like exactly where that pretty comfortable takes us. Where does it take us? It takes us to church at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, except 9 o'clock in the summer. Or maybe it only takes us once or twice a month. Or maybe it takes us just on Christmas or Easter. Or, I was thinking about it when we pulled the silver out, and the man whose silver was given in memory of, his ancestors called him what they call a sprinkled Christian. Baptism, weddings, and funerals. And in my mind, if that's all there is to it, well, then you might as well stay home and watch television. You see, I want my God in Jesus Christ to bring my outside of my comfort zone so that I see things I wouldn't otherwise ever have seen. I think things I would have never thought. I do things I would have never done and live in ways I would have never dared. If all I got out of Jesus was some nice stories, pleasant worship, and I knew how to sing 40 songs I'd never sing anyplace else, and how to be part of a nice civic organization that was full of nice people and doing good in the world, all of which is really good, it still wouldn't be good enough for me. It's hardly what I imagine salvation must be. Are you with me? You worried that I've become a biblical literalist overnight? That I believe in miracle stories? What if I were to tell you that I have lived the story of the 5 loaves and 2 fish feeding a multitude? I've seen it with my own eyes. What if I were to tell you I have done this not once, but 4 different places? Just to refresh your memory from the reading, Jesus and his disciples are surrounded by thousands of people who have come to hear what Jesus has to say, to see salvation, to get salvation, to live salvation, to be healed. The hour gets late, and Jesus says to the disciples, get them something to eat. And the disciples go directly into scarcity mode. Oh no, what are we going to do? 200 denarii worth of food. We only have 5 loaves and 2 fish. Think about that. 12 disciples, 5 loaves and 2 fish. A few of those people were freeloading already. And it's like communion. Jesus takes the bread and the fish, he blesses them, breaks them, distributes them, and everyone eats until they're full. And then there's a little part that happens so quickly, even with it on the board and Scott reading it, you might not notice. There's enough left over to fill 12 baskets, 1 basket for each of the disciples. Even the people who showed up with nothing to begin with, right? So you might be wondering where I've seen and lived this. Well, in my time as a pastor, I've served 4 churches, all New England congregational churches. The first on a prosperous South Shore suburb, the second in a tough urban neighborhood in Quincy, the 4th in a middle-class rural town in Connecticut. No, the 3rd was in Connecticut, the 4th is here. And I've seen the loaves and the fish lived out in every one of these churches. Because every year around this time of year, we do stewardship. And most of the people in all of the churches I serve give a fraction of what they might be able to give from their disposable income. We're not even talking about a tithe anymore. And if we're lucky in the churches, a few really generous supporters step up and cover a big chunk of the budget. And so in a few weeks, I'd sit down with the finance committee and we'd all be worried about the scarcity, how we're going to make it. We'd talk about maybe having to tighten our belts. There'd be this sense of, like the disciples, when Jesus first says, how are we going to do this? We don't have enough. In spite of that, every church I've been in has been flourishing to overflowing. The ministries and the missions, the life-giving and lifelong relationships, the memory-making services and events, the good works in the world that are made tangible difference in the lives of those being helped and the lives of those doing the helping. Everything that Amy just said, you've seen it, she's seen it. So much so that there are literally overflowing baskets of blessings for everyone. And what's more, these churches are congregational churches, and the definition of congregational means all of us doing it all. And yet, in most churches, those of you involved in leadership know that it's about 20% of the people who do all the work. Oftentimes even fewer. You know, the same people. They sing in the choir, they teach Sunday school, they do the flowers, they serve on deacons, they do stewardship, they pick up the leaves. And we're in these meetings and we're always worried, who are we going to get to do what we need to do? We worry that we'll call someone up and they'll say no, or if we ask Barbara Baker to do it again, she's going to get burned out. And yet, I've been here 13 years, and I feel like it's almost the second and a half church I've pastored. There were very different people here 13 years ago, mostly. And yet people keep coming forward, and ministries and missions flourish year after year to overflowing. I know you're thinking right now that here it comes. He's getting to the ask. He's about to harangue everyone that we have to up our pledges. Imagine what we could do with more loaves and fish. No harangue. You're all intelligent. You can do the math. You can look at the budget. You're going to get a letter. It's going to spell everything out to you. I'm here to preach the good news. My friends, remember the times when your souls were filled to overflowing by worship, by going down to Boston and helping the folks who are living out of doors, by going to Family Promise, A Place to Turn, teaching Sunday school, singing in the choir, the Christmas pageant, you name it. See the overwhelming abundance of blessing God showers on us here, and rejoice in God's grace. That is the good news. Amen.